Soundtrack to my life right there.
So do you record all of these lectures?
I do.
Anna Crestland's uploads them to the Vandal campus. I think there's, I don't know how many are up now, so it's all kind of like the early couple ones, the base on there. So it's probably. Schmidt. So our friend, her voice already came on, she already told us recording in progress.
Oh, Becca won't be here. She
Yeah.
said she used to like your class. She still likes it.
Yeah, but she used to do. There's Mitch Hedberg, God rest his soul, he was a comedian. And that was one of his favorite, one of his jokes.
Oh, Mitch, yeah, I know.
You know Mitch Hedberg, yeah.
I didn't know that was on there.
Well, it was, unfortunately, I mean, you guys, everyone on the YouTube stream, you can watch Mitch Hedberg yourself. I won't ruin his comedy. I'll do it better than him. And he'll be like, why?
We gotta do at least one of his jokes now.
One of his jokes, yeah, he's like, he honestly was just so like, yeah, bro, yeah, dude, right, bro. So like, rice is a really good snack if you want something, fast and you want a million of those things. Like, it's like, what I like to do is like, I like to take a toothpick and I go out in the forest and I just, you're home. Jokes are they're all anti-joke.
I told you this one. I look down and I see my belt holding up my pants. But there's loops on my pants holding up my belt. Who's the real hero here?
Yeah, right.
Huh? Mitch Hedberg.
Oh, how about we can have a
Hedberg?
Hedberg.
Yeah.
We can have a Mitch Hedberg watch party. He looks identical to Kurt Cobain, literally. You know,
Yeah.
Kurt Cobain from Nirvana. And God rest his soul, he died like 2003 or 4. Hedberg did. Cobain was like 10 years earlier, but they're all like 90s grunge dudes. Like that's kind of style.
Yeah.
Despite him being a stand-up comedian, not a musician, but it's like Kurt Cobain telling jokes, very sleepy boys. And all of them are complete anti-joke. Just yeah, I'm trying to think of any of the other ones.
No ice on that, really.
Yeah, he
Mostly
just,
looking down.
which is like exactly like legendary stats. He really had like the ultimate cult following. My brother-in-law Anson. Sophia, I think you like Anson a lot. Really, he's a cool guy. Most people that meet Anson do like him. Anson is super chill, cool dude. And because of that, like he's like, you should look at Mitch Hedberg. I'm like, whatever, but okay, because of you. And like, he introduced him to us, and reading the YouTube comments, like people are like obsessed with Mitch Hedberg. Like it's like gross. Like he's the greatest comic genius of all time. Like who am I to judge? But okay, everybody on the computer, all of you listening and watching the recording later on, we have 8 things on the board today in order: Hindenburg Line and the second battle of Arras. Actually, it's really the first battle. So that's a misnomer. I'm going to put a blue line through this. All right, check this out. Automatic editing on the fly. Okay, let's call it the first. Second is like 1918 with Pershing and those dudes. We'll get back to that later on. Just Battle of Arras really is connected, kind of 2 and 3 are kind of connected as one, Arras and the Nivelle Offensive. This is the biggest thing we're going to talk about today. Okay, it's the Nivelle Offensive of the spring of 1917, within which is the very famous Battle of Vimy Ridge. As we move to the second sheet, so to speak, the central part of the board, Pétain comes into charge. What about all his details and background? How does he specifically deal with the French mutiny? Very tragic, very sad, kind of this like gallows humor. A lot of the French soldiers at this time would literally in their trenches be like, bah, bah, like to mock, like being sheep led to the slaughter. They were so angry that the French high command and the British do the same. We know the tragic July 1st at the Somme, that they had no respect for human life and kept doing these human wave attacks despite literally, and I use this word intentionally, despite whatever. We gain ground or not, we capture, often the story is right, like the first Battle of Champagne, the British have a breakthrough, they capture, remember they can't hold the city. They're always overrunning their communications, overrunning their supply lines. They capture, put a foothold on, and the Germans take double back the next day. Whatever, it's more Baja, Baja, just go back out there and die for the country. I'll give you a quick spoiler alert. We're going to talk about this today in real time, but a lot of this relates to the Vandal offensive. Let me just give you a quick, this is the most important thing I'll say all class today, because those of you that have been with us the whole semester, Megan, Brian on the computer, everyone in class, this is the first time that we returned to chronology in like 2 weeks. The last 2 weeks we've gone off on the thematic kind of tributaries, talked about the Russian Revolution, Our Lady of Fatima, America. Now we finally go back into the actual war chronology itself, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we don't quit it until we finish the war. And then we do some more thematic stuff at the end before the class finishes on Blessed Emperor Karl, the Spanish flu, Versailles. But we have to put ourselves back chronologically to where we were at this time. Remember, 1914, 15, and 16, on all fronts, when I had that little kind of diagram for you, the Germans are winning basically everywhere. Despite failing to replicate the stunning blitzkrieg-like success, purposeful anachronism of 1871, and the Western Front hardening after the Battle of the Marne, the Germans have taken hundreds of thousands of square miles of territory and have all of Belgium. Belgium is under German occupation the whole war. And they have a deep foothold into France in the West. In the East, they've been kicking Russian butt basically the entire time. Even the one really successful Russian maneuver of December of 1916, the Brusilov offensive, is massive casualties, right? And it contributes a kind of consequence of that. An unforeseen consequence contributes to the Russian Revolution we just talked about last class. The depletion of morale back home, the abdication of the Tsar. The Southern Front, the battle of the 12 battles of Isonzo, number 12, especially most famous, the Battle of Caporetto we talked about recently, where the Italians can do nothing for the Allies against the Austro-Hungarian defenses. And remember how the Germans looked at Austro-Hungary, right? Having an ally like Austro-Hungary is like being shackled to a corpse. Remember, like that's the worst possible insult. Like they're literally dead weight, and still the dead weight is able to easily fend off all the Italian attacks trying to break through the south. Oh, break through the south, Gracjan. That's like the Battle of Gallipoli, which also was a massive failure for the Allies. So all around, as we enter 1917, here's the two things you have to know. German success everywhere, but remember Battle of Jutland, no German ultimate victory. That's why you have this weird stalemate. The Germans are winning on the scoreboard. If the Germans are the Vandals playing a football team, it's 41-7 in the Kibbie Dome in the third quarter. Go Vandals, go Idaho. And yet, but the game is not over because the Germans are not able to deliver distinguishing blows, deliver final nails in the coffin. They can't break through the Western Front. They can't break out of the Jutland Peninsula. They have not taken Russia yet, despite the massive advances. The Gorlice-Tarnów offensive in 1915, when they march all the way across the Eastern Front, take Warsaw, Riga, they go all up into the Baltic states. 1917, getting down to where we are now, right? This is the first thing we'll talk about in a second with the Hindenburg Line. What was this? But the Nivelle offensive, the most important thing I'll tell you today, the sheep thing. The Allies are so tired, so fatigued with all our commanders seem to do on all these fronts is human wave attacks. All General Sophia seems to do is, despite this failing 9 times, she tells us again, okay, this time we're going to go into no man's land and run into machine gun fire. And when is this ever going to end? Well, Nivelle, he's going to take over for Joffre. Nivelle distinguishes himself along with Pétain at the Battle of Verdun. Nivelle, they would know what's kind of cool about him. And this is, anyone know, can anyone name a city in some state in the US? Where? What? That was the worst contextual question. Anyone know what's cool about him? What kind of interesting question is that? Total fail. Like Dimitri Martin, a comedian, once talked about road rage. He's like, I want to be in road rage, like be flipping someone off, but like curl it back. Say, no, it's my bad. I'm flipping myself off. That's how I feel right now. Like, middle fingers back to me, not to you. Like, what kind of question? What's cool about him? Oh, great context. What's cool about him? He has an English mother. So he doesn't speak good English, right? He's your emotion. He speaks perfect English, like unaccented English. This is kind of like, well, I think this guy's the best chemist because he also models for Gucci. What does modeling for Gucci have to do with being a chemist? Nothing. But that kind of stupid stereotype. Oh, we think better looking people are better at their job. It has nothing to do with it. But oh, she's really pretty, so I want to support her candidacy. horrible ideas. Gosh, she's beautiful, right? There's this kind of cognitive dissonance. Same thing with Novell. The fact that he speaks really good English, the British are like, great, finally a French guy who's an awesome general too. That has nothing to do with it, right? But they trust him, and there's a lot of hope built up. And time out, to be fair to him, again, he distinguishes himself at Verdun. Remember, Verdun is February to November of 1916. And why are the Allies very successful at the end of Verdun? What is happening concurrently? Someone jog your mind back. Sophia is all over this.
What was the date? Give me a date.
The fall of 1916. What is going, remember Verdun begins in February 21st of 1916. And it's a stunning German success. They take Fort Douaumont kind of immediately. They take a lot of the Fort Vaux, kind of all this stuff. But then by the end of the war, Falkenhayn is going to be removed from command, remember, on August 29th, the fall of 1916. Why is that successful for? Which, by the way, all you sport nerds, in the fall of 1916, the Georgia Institute of Technology, this is dead serious. I taught a class at the University of Illinois called Sports and Society. This is one of my favorite lectures. This is going to be completely irrelevant for the class, but I want to share this with you. The Georgia Institute of Technology in the fall of 1916 beat Cumberland College in football 222-0. That's a real score. Like, it's hard in football to score. Like, if the Vandals lost to University of Florida a couple years ago, like 70-7. Wow, 70, 10 touchdowns. That's triple that. How do you score 200 points in a football game? Excuse me, 222. I think it was literally like they kick off, Cumberland receives the kickoff, starts running, guy gets his head knocked off, fumbles, they return a touchdown. Next play, same thing. Every time Georgia scores in, like Georgia Tech scores in one play. That happened as well in the fall of 1916. This has nothing to do with stuff. The answer is the Germans had to pull out troops. The Germans had to pull out troops from Verdun to reinforce the Somme. So you can say, oh, okay, this is like the Vandal quarterback who threw 3 quarters through for 45 yards. He throws for 400 in the 4th quarter against the band. The band got put into play, defense or something, right? Okay, fine, fair enough. Nonetheless, Novell distinguishes himself at Verdun, right? He's won a couple battles. They take Fort Dumont back, but it's basically, again, we don't know if her candidacy is good, but she's very attractive. Support her. We don't know about Novell, but he has English mom. Finally, we British who hate the French so much have a guy who can support because he speaks good English. Okay, and Novell on top of it, we'll tell you what he promises in a second. But the Novell offensive is the most important thing I think I'll talk about today. The only rival is number 6, the Kerensky offensive. Alexander Kerensky, the first kind of democratically elected president of Russia after the abdication of Tsar Nicholas II. The Kerensky offensive, who knows anything about this? Anyone? Do you have any kind of guesses, clues why this is important?
Well, it was a complete utter failure.
It was led by Alexei Brusilov, a guy, the famous Brusilov offensive. This is Brusilov the sequel, and like a lot of movies, it pans the box office, and this one failed horribly. And what it really, I told you guys about Gentlemen Broncos, right? Yes or no? Okay, I will in a second. Totally rabbit hole again, nothing to do with the class, but I'll mention, speaking of sequels. Kerensky leads this offensive when all of Russia, the Tsar having abdicated in March, this is the summer of 1917, is very eager for what? The Tsar has abdicated, all our boys are dying on the front, a lot of them are throwing their rifles down and leaving. What do the Russian people want, generally speaking, Krishman? They want more cowboy, like Will Ferrell in that skit, that's no. They want more peace. And Kerensky doesn't, he's like, no, we didn't continue the fight, as Dominic perfectly and succinctly said, perfectly, before sitting down to his pancake breakfast, which is like the most distinguished thing I think I've seen in a long time. A great answer and then pancakes. Really, brilliantly done. And he's wearing a red sweater, which makes him look like a Roman senator or something. Excellent work all around. He's right. It's an utter complete failure, and will just really exacerbate what we talked about last class. I love this class so much because we really mess with time a lot. We really move chronology around. This is the first half of 1917 on the battlefield. We've already talked about 1917 vis-a-vis Fatima and the apparitions and the miracle of the sun. And we've already talked about 1917 vis-a-vis the revolution. All this kind of works in tandem. Okay, point number 1, Hindenburg line. Drew said that he drew a Hindenburg blimp yesterday and then erased it. And I'm very upset about that. I wish you would have left it on the board.
It was insensitive, but really funny.
In this class, we don't mind insensitive material.
Okay.
That's right. Like Trish Schmidt was saying things that like, this is on, the things she was saying before I started recording would get her canceled immediately. I can't even repeat this.
She's worse at home, worse at home.
No, less than censored, no.
We don't record
Anyone know, okay, oh, Gentlemen Broncos, before we start this, sequels. Napoleon Dynamite, which I showed in my class last year, Christianity in film. I promise, I mean this, I think it's one of the funniest movies ever made. I respect people who hate it. I do, I get it. Like, it's kind of all or nothing. Napoleon Dynamite, I love it. Like our Lord says, be hot or cold, don't be lukewarm. Napoleon Dynamite is not lukewarm. Either you find it like I do, incredibly intellectually complex and brilliant, and in its purposeful kind of like everydayness of Southeastern Idaho. I don't have to recount the film, you know the film. But either you love it or you hate it. But I mean, it has, even if you hate it, that has a cult following for detestation, right? I think it's like 90-10. I think 90% of people love it, but even the people that hate it, they know it. Josh and whatever, the Mormon couple director, they never made a sequel to Napoleon Dynamite. God bless them. A great job. They did make a second movie called Gentlemen Broncos, which sucked so bad. It was so effing garbage. I can't even, it's just such absolute SHIT. And the only kind of debatably funny line is, I've mentioned this to you thing before. It's the only funny line in Gentlemen Broncos is the mom is this absurd mother who's sending her kid off to like learn how to drive warriors, some Comic-Con conference or something. And she actually pulls this with the actress, God bless her, should have gotten an award for this one line. They're going for like a week, right? Drew, how much would you give your kid for a week at a camp? Money for like lunch, like 100 some bucks, I don't know, $120, like 20 bucks a day, whatever, even like simple, right? And the mom says to the guy, so it's a 2-week camp. I'm just wondering, like for my son, I wanted to have enough to eat. You think $4 is enough? He responds like, you need a little bit more. It's the only good part of the movie. Everything else is so stupid and garbage. No, and not funny stupid, like really, really bad. Okay, the Hindenburg line is a defensive position. Okay, that was perfect.
Sorry.
That's like the walk up to the Hindenburg line.
Yeah, let's fix this.
So getting to the actual class material, and I'm the most guilty culprit in all this procedure. But I said, seriously, the most important thing today is the develop offensive. This guy who is British love for this reason, he has a British mom, speaks good English, he's going to make a monumental promise. I'll tell you what that is soon. But let me set the ground first, literally. The Hindenburg Line is a defensive position built during the winter of 1916 and 17 on the Western Front. All right, period. 1916, post Verdun, 1917, that winter, so December, January, February, before this commences here. This Nivelle offensive, look at the date, is going to commence 9 April, April 9th. That's well into the spring. So you can see they're going to work on this in March. They waste the intervening ground in the hope that they will delay the spring offensive of the Allies and use different tactics like reverse slope positioning, defense in depth, camouflage, etc. Explain this to me. What does that mean? What are the Germans doing? Here's the Western Front. The Hindenburg Line is a certain creation. What is wasting the intervening ground mean? They're going to like do a strategic retreat over a few miles, set up new fortifications, reverse slope, defense in depth. What does that mean? What are the Germans doing? That should ring bells, light bulbs of, oh, all this stuff we talked about earlier, the human wave attacks, the just sending people out. What are they doing? That is very smart on their part, very bad for the Allies. Very simple answer, very simple tactic. What is going on here?
Are they making it so that the waves have to go farther?
Exactly, perfect. And farther into more barbed wire, into holes in the ground. The Germans, who are very, very intelligent, that stereotype I think is universally true. Sorry, whoever is offended by that. The Germans are like, oh, we realized really early in World War I that defensive positions are better. That, like I think Petain said, or Charles de Gaulle, one of these guys, these French famous guys said, no amount of courage matters against a nest of machine guns. They realized that. It doesn't matter how good Sophia is. Sophia is the best general in our country. Her tactics mean nothing against, remember back in the first class, the Liège style Big Bertha guns that go through the fortifications, bury themselves in the ground, delay explosion, blow everything to pieces. The Germans are like, okay, what Gracjan said is correct, the Germans are saying. Ludendorff actually name drops me in these discussions, like what he said is right. We're winning everywhere, but we're not breaking through, right? We're winning everywhere, we're not breaking through. I think the best way we're gonna win the war, we the Germans, is to really take attrition to a new level. If the Allies are so stupid, and they are so stupid, they just continue doing these wave attacks, why don't we take some time and instead of being right on the kind of nose-to-nose front, why don't we ruin a bunch of intervening land? They do. This is very bad for the French citizens living there. It's like scorching up the earth, burning stuff, destroying railways, ruining communications, transports, do all that, like Eli said, make it so the human wave attacks aren't just walking across no man's land ground, but over like a carnage field, minefield, basically. And we're gonna, the reverse slope, we're gonna set up on like hills and we're making it even worse. That's all you have to know about the Hindenburg Line. I guess the one thing you can say is that if you want to look ahead, the Hindenburg Line will be broken by the Allies, by the Americans. Here's where I totally play that song. Play your favorite American song right now, loud and proud. The Americans, not simply the Allies, Pershing and the American Expeditionary Force in September of 1918, during the 100 Days Offensive, they are the ones who finally break through, smash through onto Armistice Day, which we celebrate on Thursday. Which, by the way, guys, how do you feel? I have a question for you. How do you feel about me moving to Thursday's class to tomorrow afternoon? Will anyone be okay with that? I know, only time in the semester. Instead of doing it Thursday morning, doing it Wednesday at 1 o'clock or Wednesday at like 12:30. What do you guys think? Is anyone okay with that?
I mean, I'd have to like miss half of it for my class.
What time is your class?
I have class at 9:30.
9:30 to what?
But up to like 11:30.
Okay. So what if I moved it to 12:30? Would that work for you? Like 12:30 to 2?
Yeah.
Are you sure? This is not, this is obviously
I
not,
could actually go tomorrow.
okay, 12:30 to 2, Schmidt family?
Why don't you just like forget it? Not show up?
Tomorrow,
Yeah.
12:30.
I'll send, no, Sophia, I'll send, you're on the Intellect tab, right? Intellect block note and stuff.
No, I have no clue.
Okay, try to sign up, I'll send that out again. And actually, Sophia, right now, when you have your phone, send your email to my email. Send me an email, Intellect, like this is Sophia.
Email.
Well, we have,
Intellect@vandalcatholic.com. And that way I'll send you a reminder. Dominic, is anyone okay with this? Is everyone okay with this? You guys, first of all, no one has to be here in terms of like, I can just, I'll record it, but like.
yeah, but the recordings are like.
They're
on the
delayed.
dark web.
Yeah,
somewhere.
exactly, dark, they're super dark web. But is that okay? Could you guys attend tomorrow, 12:32? It's the only time in the semester that will fit.
Well, we have a call Germany at 10, but they should be done by.
All right, from the embassy. I want to be a guy, I want to be a diplomat so bad. I want to be a diplomat so bad. I want to walk out and like,
It's not right.
and be like, damn, you know, like you come to the podium, like, he's gonna freaking start saying stuff. I want to listen. That's what I want. Hello, everyone.
Just run for governor. Just run for governor.
Would you guys support me running for governor?
I was the worst running for governor.
No matter what I say.
No, I mean, we have to figure out how to
Okay, like,
neutralize some votes on the west side, but yeah, you can go ahead.
no, not for Washington.
You have
I'll vote for Idaho.
you go for
Idaho. Yeah, there's no way I should
with
do
the
it.
Mormons, right?
What?
You have the
I
relationship.
do. I've got freaking Mormon, I got like Mormon connections.
All you
Mormon
need.
connections. They invite me to like secret meetings and stuff. Yo, I was seriously, I'm not even gonna lie. If I was gonna run for governor, first thing I do, dead serious. I would get a bus, I would start in Sandpoint and go to every town. And Beto O'Rourke or Beto, whatever his real name is, the Texas dude, you know him, all right?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna tell you first of all, I'm a Democrat or Republican, 'cause I'm both. On both parties. No, but I'm not gonna tell you what I think of Beto or Beto. Well, how do you pronounce it? Beto. Okay.
Really?
Roberto. Yeah. But he speaks good Spanish. He will say it's garbage, but what do I know? My Spanish really sucks. So, but Beto, when he was running against Ted Cruz, he went to every Texas county. What a freaking boss! Maybe like I hate his policies or love them. That's what I would do. I would go to every. If I was gonna run for governor, like whatever, it was like 2 years away. I'd take a bus. I'd go to every county. I'd go to have town halls. I'd be like, I literally want to serve you. Like, tell me and flip pad. What would you want the governor to do for you? Like literally, shameless, like total, like actual, but like hopeful deliverance of pandering. Like I am pandering, saying, no, I am your servant, I will kiss your feet, but I actually mean it. And I would try to formulate like, the only thing, the non-negotiable for me to be pro-life and support religious freedom, those kind of things. But everything else, like, if every Idaho hick farmer is like, I want you to like import these cows, I'd be like, that's my thing, like, import these cows to Idaho, like, whatever weird policies, you know? And I would love to, like, when I get started, like, my opponent doesn't know about law HB 75-3 banning that you can't milk cows with your mouth. That's what the farmers want, I know. You know? I'm like, that's not what you do. That's how I would try to get elected.
That image, gosh, I did not need my.
Do you know how
Yeah,
Basque,
really.
do you know how bad-
Explain to that.
do you know how Basque sheep farmers castrate sheep?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Talk to me about images, and talk to me about images. Talk about images I don't want to know about. That's what
You
I'm
seem
saying.
to assume that all the farmers have the same opinion. I mean, you know, you're gonna get all these
I know that.
contradictory.
But so no, I'm telling you, look,
Amen.
I'm not gonna run for governor, this is fun to talk about.
You
But
know,
He's gonna forget me.
we'll be, as they always say, I'm not. No, like, so if I gather all this information, what Idahoans want, I literally would try. Now, here's the negative part, right? People on the fence get hated by everyone. I get that. If you try to please everyone, you please no one. I honestly would try though, is it possible? I don't have like a campaign manager who's really smart or someone like a campaign team. I'd like, here's what I've gathered from my bus tour, like a summer bus tour. You know how fun that would be too?
That'd be great.
I would write a book about it, like my campaign tour, or any like a promotional book, like everyone releases a book. I would have it like hot springs and ice cream. It's in my book. Like I go and I visit all the hot springs and have ice cream and all like the photo ops over a summer. And I talked to my campaign manager, like, look, campaign is 2 years out. We did the bus tour. Here's what I have gathered in this listening tour. Here are the 67 positions Idahoans really want. Is there any way to reconcile all of these and deduce them to like 10 points to put on a website? You know? And there's something, like I said, there's some things that be non-negotiable on, but everything else, whatever will give me power, like insatiable desire for governance power. You know, it's like I'll support anything as long as it's not like morally wrong, like more BLM land, less BLM land, grazing. We want our Idaho cows to graze on Utah land, damn it. You know, like,
Well, I think you're right on the money as far as, I mean, we're kind of getting afield here, but the
I think
idea,
this is the birth of a campaign.
the idea of representing
Yeah.
the people.
Yeah.
Then you can,
I was about to say, yeah, we just gotta get you residents in Idaho.
I know.
Oh, there's a start.
And a
The idea of
couple
representing-
scandals.
True,
I
true,
want-
security.
I can be security.
I want at least 2 scandals, 2 really crazy scandals that like
Well,
draws in the crowd. People are like, oh, he's bad.
I've got
I'm
one.
like, doesn't play by the rules.
I've already got one scandal today. I'm recording. You said Germans are just really intelligent.
That qualifies as a scandal, the low crowd that gets you canceled, right?
So
Now, I want a real scandal, like he.
he milked a cow in
No,
his mouth.
he milks cows in his mouth for fun. And he owns like a silver mine in Brazil. And he used Idaho taxpayer dollars to open a silver mine. It
Is
wasn't
this
necessary.
your opponent or you actually?
Me, no, not myself.
Oh, you.
I would release scandals about myself. Well, yeah, people want to elect corrupt politicians, and they're like, oh, he'll do whatever it takes for Idaho, you know?
If not elected, I promise to be happier than
Yeah.
the word.
Yeah. Yeah, hey, I have all these scandals, like, do you really want to see what happens if I'm not elected and there's no restraints? Whatever that means. It would be a real shame for Idahoans if I wasn't elected.
Just abolish the state Congress.
Yeah, right.
I mean, you know, with all these
First act is.
directives and mandates, we've pretty much done it anyway.
Don't you live in Washington?
I do, that's a scandal right there.
You could like release some like fake scandals for the sake of scandal, and then it later comes out that those are fake, and then that's the
And then
scandal.
he's, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Sophia, what role are you gonna play in the campaign? You're scandal creator.
Who's your campaign, man?
She's scandal social media czar. She tweets it.
Yeah, yeah, be sure to use the word czar. That always gets us excited.
Oh my gosh, no, I'm not even kidding, no, we're so far afield, not even that time. I have no idea how, if I was governor, how that wouldn't go to my head. I just wanna come to schools and be like, I'm governor.
And our head, because we'd all be there with.
I just wanna like show up to like things, like show up to a Boise State football game and like. Idaho statesman? they're gonna start about Boise State, now they have to, like, governor showed up. It's like crash events, you know, like. Go watch the Boise State game in the crowd, but beforehand, they have to take part of the bleachers way to build a throne. With simple potatoes. I'm a man of the people. Oh man, and like Russian or Roman emperor style, like. I demand the coach is fired. Oh man, right? Or I dissolve Congress. I dissolve Congress on Monday. Okay.
So are you moving class till tomorrow to two
Yeah.
tomorrow?
12:30 to 2. Is that okay?
Yeah,
12:30.
I have a really important meeting tomorrow with potential donors in Pullman at 11 o'clock. And then 12:30, yeah.
Oh,
So you do it here.
Yeah, I'll be there, but it is,
Shame.
Well, Drew, you're never here anyway, so who cares? Your presence won't be missed. First time you show up in 2 weeks now, since you care.
That's been way
Yeah.
over 2 weeks.
Ooh, that's what I thought, exactly. Well, you heard, he's condemned by his own words, you heard that.
That's pretty useful.
Drew, I'm really happy you're here though, like objectively, like, you know, 1 to 10, like, it's definitely up, it's definitely not 10. I'm happy you're here.
Looking like
Yeah, well, and then ready to.
Just as the class
Class.
started.
you're leaving, what?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah.
So as you both leave, listen, one lesson they're gonna find out in the next half hour. All that happens in 1917 is a double story of, we haven't learned all lessons, can keep doing human wave attacks on the eastern and western front, the Vandal offensive and Kraszewski, and both those lead to revolutions. In Russia, they lead to the Russian Revolution, we talked about last class, in the morale revolution of mutiny. You got it the whole time. Awesome. All right. So as Eli correctly said, with kind of, it was a great point, that they destroy the land, they make it harder for the human wave attacks. You would think, okay, that we're not gonna perpetuate these errors. We move to really the Vandal offensive. Battle of Arras, all right. This is part of it. I just prefer to focus on keeping it as simple as possible. It's called the Vandal offensive because it's the main part of this battle, okay? The aim of the French offensive is to break through the German defenses in 48 hours. My friends, everyone listening on the Zoom link, that is the promise Vandal makes. He goes and he says to the British High Command, you guys love me because I'm one of you. I have an English mother. That's what it was with in Judaism, right? A person is like 100% Jewish and a Jewish mother, right? It's matrilineal. Well, here he's the same thing. He's like, yeah, my mom is British. How much more legit do you get being part of a culture than your mother? I'm British from my womb. They love him, and then they love him because of this. He says, unlike Haig, unlike Joffre, unlike all these guys who promise grandiose things and fail, I promise to break through the German line. At that point, ellipsis, ... Excuse me, General. You're going to break through the German line that none of us have broken through, and now is doubly good because of the Hindenburg defenses. Now it's twice as hard. Yeah, don't worry about it. I promise I'll break through the German line in 48 hours. 2 days. And if not, what? This is what they really love. If I don't break through these lines, I will call it off. I promise we will break through in 48 hours, and if not, I will call it off because I do not want to have a lot of human casualties. Okay? That is the great defense, the great promise that he makes. The Vandal offensive, or the Chemin des Dames offensive, part of this larger, say the spring offensive in 1917, the Allies, intended to be strategically decisive by breaking through the German defenses within 48 hours with casualties expecting to be about 10,000 men. Sophia, if your 3 sons are part of these 10,000, this is your whole world. Right? This is not a small thing. Every one of those precious souls, God rest their souls, who died, one casualty is too much. If it's your family, if it's your husband, if it's your son. Now in the modern forces of an integrated army, if it's your wife, your sister, whoever, one soldier is too much. But Vandal says, look, in a war where we have 2 million casualties in 1916, 2.2 million for Verdun and the Somme, that's a manageable number. If we don't break through in 48 hours, we will call it off. That sounds good. Everyone happy, right? That sounds pretty reasonable. All of that. Okay. And the final stage of this offensive, after the French breakthrough, was going to be a meeting up of the British and French armies. Okay, so they kick it off, all right, they kick this off. And kick it off on April 9th. Okay. With a preliminary bombardment. This is how these battles often start. Go back to Verdun. Remember, Verdun was supposed to start on February 12th. 1916 is delayed to the 21st because of the snow. There's this long strategic bombardment. The goal being, a la that previous quote, no amount of courage matters against a machine gun nest. What if you destroy the machine guns? What if you neutralize the incoming fire? And you give your men the opportunity to march unimpeded against damaged defenses. Well, the main offensive, which starts the 9th, the men start marching on April 16th. It's going to be called off on April 25th. How much longer is that? How many more days is April 25th after 16th? I'm not a genius. 9 days, I don't think is 48 hours, right? And Nivelle, who eventually, the failure of the strategy, let's get to brass tacks right now. Let's get to the answer. It fails horribly. I don't want to accuse him of being a liar, but he just changes his mind. Not only does it horribly fail, not only does he not keep his promise by not calling out after 48 hours, when they call it off the 25th, it's the kid in the candy shop. The mom dragging him out by the scruff of his coat and kicking and screaming, "You hate me, you never want to give me candy." He doesn't call it off. He's still flipping out. "You guys don't get it, you don't get my plan." They're like, "No, we're losing, hundreds of thousands of people." It turns out, point number 4, the Nivelle offensive, that not only is it not successful in any way, it's triply worse, which is very easily predictable. It's kind of like, I wonder why I got wet when I walked outside today and it said on weather.com, 100% chance of rain. I don't know, there's a connection there made, I'm not making it, why I got wet today. And actually, before I left, I saw it was downpouring rain. I still thought I could move between the raindrops. That's the kind of absolute chisel show thing here. Not only have these tactics not worked, but now they're going up against a much improved German defense. With Germans improving their defenses, imagine if you found out today that like American military budget tripled in size. Well, it's already the largest in the world, I think, more than everyone else combined. That'd be it's more than that. Or imagine if you found out like Usain Bolt back in his prime got considerably faster. He's already the fastest man in the world. The Germans already have pioneered the idea of depth in defense. They've already done a great job during the First World War, tragically, because of all the casualties, withholding the attacks. So why Nivelle thought, beyond just kind of like the cockiness of generals, and I understand that. If the army's a meritocracy, imagine you start off somewhere in the low officer corps, and of all your friends, you're the only one that gets promoted, and promoted again. By the time you reach general, you're like, I'm the man. Like I'm always getting promoted. I'm always one of 100 moving up the ranks. I am Alexander the Great. I am the best. I'm the one who's going to win. And I had some success at the Verdun, and the British are kissing my butt because they're like, oh, he's one of us. You can see why he has this ego. That seems to be the only reason. Trish Schmidt, the greatest general in the history of the world, I'm going to do this. That seems to be the only answer. There's not really a lot of stuff backing up on the ground. It's called off on the 25th. Costly, awful, horrifying failure. I don't think I have the casualty numbers for you exactly, but it's in the tens to hundreds of thousands. It's everything when we used to put on the board the green numbers and stuff. It's everything like the Germans is 100 men, the French, 14,500. Like it's absolutely horrifying.
Do we know what his supposed plan was as far as taking out the machine guns?
Yeah, I said it before, and probably it's a great question. It probably wasn't clear enough. It was the decisive breakthrough plan always is very elementary. And I mean that like elementary school level, like win, get the bad guys. Like, there's just kind of just the overall the line, take that position. But what he specifically wanted to do was, we're going to strike fast in these 48 hours, concentrate on the defenses, break the Hindenburg line, which will happen in a different guise with Pershing the next year, like I said. When the Americans come in and accomplish it, there's different circumstances now. This is not yet the end of the war. This is not September 19th. This is still a year and a half away. But first, break through the line, and especially unite with the British forces and kind of have a full prong kind of final attack. 40 hours to break the line, coordinate with the British, because the Nivelle offensive is mainly a French effort. Coordinate with the British, joint offensive, and then end the war. The full, if you're like, wait, coordinate with the British, aren't the armies already working in tandem? They are. It's not till Ferdinand Foch in 1918 that you have a supreme Allied commander. At this point, the British and French are still like Austria-Hungary. Kaiser is the head, but Hungary also has its own parliament. They're kind of weird equals. Who's the head of the British government? Well, that's the prime minister. You also have the queens. This weird kind of. It's not until Ferdinand Foch just one leader period for the Allies, right? So the goal is very simply has always been to break the line, get the men there, but the lines have been broken before, right? Haig was very good at this, but it always seemed the British could capture a city, but they couldn't hold it. So here's like, we're going to avoid the repeat of the past and break the line after retreat because the British will come in then and we'll just overwhelm them, break through the fronts and move on to victory. Maybe at that point, even they don't know. If we break the lines, well, we haven't done that yet. We'll figure it out when we get there, right? I don't know. We'll continue marching on. We'll try to encircle the ground. I don't know. The failure of the Nivelle strategy and the high number of casualties will lead to number 4, Petain, coming into command. All right, and we'll talk. He's basically okay. Three results of the failed spring offensive for the Allies, for the French. 1, change of command from Nivelle to Petain. 2, the mutinies. The mutinies are directly caused by this. The French mutiny begins at the end of April. Look at this. Okay, it begins during this. April 29th when the real mutinies break out. And it leads to why is Petain really successful? He finally listens to the men. He will give Dave Schmidt and his battalion leave and actually good food. And not will say, Dave, I know you think you should call me. Yes, I would too. Because everyone's been telling you no more human wave attacks and we keep doing it. I actually mean this. We're not going to send you over open land again. We're not going to do needless stuff. Petain already demonstrated this earlier, that he was one of the few generals who understood how powerful defenses were and therefore conserved lives. So very popular, right? Your son is out there too, very popular with the public as well. Oh, my boys, this is hell on earth. But at least my boys in a position where the general doesn't look at him as like actually 100% expendable. Like, no, the purpose is to have you die. No, we're not going to do that kind of tactics anymore. As part of the Nivelle offensive, though, we have a very famous battle, Vimy Ridge. Okay, the dates are, let's put the dates on the board, 9 to 12 April. Okay, so very much a part of all this. Again, all this is spring offensive. Battle of Vimy Ridge, April 9th to 12th. Many historians and writers consider the Canadian victory at Vimy, and it was. Okay. This is where it is a typical story. Despite the massive overall failure here, there are some part and parcel successes. There are some early successes before the overwhelming response, right? Guys, this is the most important thing I'll tell you about Vimy. Many historians and writers consider the Canadian victory at Vimy a defining moment for Canada, when the country emerges from the shadow of Britain and feels like it can stand on its own. Please write this. Canada at Vimy equals Anzac Cove at Gallipoli for New Zealand and Australia. Remember at Gallipoli, despite the fact that it was an Allied failure, it was like, we died for Australia. We died for New Zealand. We weren't fighting just for king and country and the Commonwealth. National identity is forged at Gallipoli. Canadian national identity is formed here at Vimy Ridge. We did this for Canada, for the maple leaf on the flag, for that territory, not for England. Again, point number 6 billion of Gracjan saying so much of stuff we know today was formed here. Okay. Why does the British Empire slowly crumble? No one, I think, seriously considers Elizabeth's like titular role over Canada and Australia today as meaning anything whatsoever, right? The British Commonwealth is a joke. It's a nice, hey, that's like apple pie in the fall and pumpkin pickings. It's nice, kind of, it's not serious. Why is that? Because these countries come into their own. Vimy Ridge for the Canadians, like Anzac Cove at Gallipoli, is like the dad, I'm 18, I'm going to college moment. Flying the nest, flying the coop, okay? A lot of bravery by the Canadians, okay? They have to time this thing perfectly. When they work to seize this, they have to go on the offensive and they're going to capture this ridge at a horrible cost, 10,000 killed and wounded. All right. And what is Vimy Ridge? Well, it's situated in northern France. It's a heavy fortified 7-kilometer ridge that has a commanding view over the Allied lines. Oh, wait, I remember Hindenburg Line. I guess this is that defense in depth. After they blew up the land, they build these overlooking positions, right? The Canadians are going to have to assault this ridge take the high ground, already very, very, if not impossible, very formidable, against heavy fortifications. And listen to this. They're gonna assault over an open graveyard of previous French attacks, numbering over 100,000 casualties. So as they try to take this ridge, they're gonna be working through dead bodies, numbering 6 figures. People who have failed trying to capture this ridge, okay? To provide greater flexibility and firepower, infantry are given specialist roles, kind of division of labor, machine gunners, riflemen, grenade, etc. Aerial photography works, and the Allies say the only way the Canadians who here are showing massive intestinal fortitude, great bravery. Listen, guys, the only way this will work is with 2 things. Very good artillery barrage that will help you kind of take off some of the pressure of the machine gun fire in your face, and also timing. And in fact, one of their commanders says, quote, "Chaps, you shall go over exactly like a railroad train on time, or you shall be annihilated." Nihilism. What does nihil mean in Latin? It means nothing. Annihilation literally means reduced to nothingness. It doesn't mean just like killed. It means, that's actually a very important word here. If you don't make on time, you literally will be hit by a big earthly guns and blown to nothing. You'll be departicularized. Like either you're going to make it or you're going to get completely blown off the face of the earth. So the week leading up to the battle, remember, right, when this thing commences, there's this artillery barrage trying to soften the positions. And the Canadian infantry indeed will be well supported going into battle, over 1,000 pieces laying down this supporting fire. A lot of it successful.
And so let me ask, so I just want to make sure I get it clear. So what we're saying is we're going to attack basically the heavy artillery.
We're going to attack the most fortified position.
And if you're too
Not the
early,
strong point.
if you march too early, they're gonna get you. If you go too late, they're gonna rebuild it.
No matter what, exactly, yes.
So you gotta be right as we're taking them out.
Yeah, if you guys go too early and we have, there's just start down into the valley, it's graveyard, like downwards on
Which has always been.
right? Or if it's too late, if we clear the withering fire and you don't go on time and you allow the reinforcements to come up, by the time they come up again, or if it's really off time and we try a creeping barrage technique, which I'm not sure, I don't think they do here. Creeping barrage, here the traditional thing is we the infantry wait, barrage happens, we've knocked them out and you sprint across, you go, Creeping barrage is you go while they're firing. So if you're doing a creeping barrage and miss on time here, your own guns will blow you up from behind. I mean, it really is the ultimate rock in a hard place kind of thing. For the first time ever, 4 Canadian divisions stormed the ridge, like an all-Canadian effort, 5:30 a.m. on April 9th, 1917, more than 15,000 Canadian infantry overrun the Germans on all fronts. Okay, they do it. The timing works, and it's especially the bravery. And in fact, Canadians are hailed for like insane psycho bravery, like wow, so much so that the French government in 1922 cedes that land to Canada in perpetuity. Vimy Ridge, that land has almost like a miniature Vatican significance as part of Canada. You died here. I have the numbers here. 3,598 Canadians were killed, over 7,000 wounded. So over 10,000 total casualties in this front. But this guy says it best, right? Brigadier General A.E. Ross declares after the war, quote, "In those few minutes, I witnessed the birth of a nation. In those few minutes, I saw these are not British people living across the sea, these are Canadians, right?" So once more, I was saying earlier with the Commonwealth today, the reason Canada has its own national identity, and I'm not being trying to be funny here, like ice hockey and maple syrup. Yeah, that is it in many ways, right? The kind of things that are Canadian, like baseball, American pastime. The reason there's a specific Canadian thing, all Canadians are so nice and all blah, 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 is that the CFL, Celine Dion, continue on, Quebecois bilingualism.
Those numbers, the casualties, they don't seem very high
Compared to
what
what
we've been hearing.
Well, time out though,
Yeah.
okay? But it's only 4 divisions attacking, so proportionally, and it's very heavy proportionally. If they would have sent, let's say maybe 200,000 men, maybe you have 130,000 casualties. It's also proportional to the number of people attacked. It's kind of a shock troop force, you can say, in a certain sense. Now, Vimy Ridge is successful. Vimy Ridge is successful, but again, as part of the larger Vandal offensive, well, the victory is kind of short-lived because of the pushback that happens, right? Who is Pétain? Okay, because we're skipping from here to here. The Vandal offensive causes the French mutiny, causes those disruptions and distractions. Who is Pétain? His birthday is the year of his biography, 1856 to 1951. He, of course, as you know, well, what does he earn infamy for? He's a World War I hero, and then what do people like denounce him for? He's actually jailed later in life for heading the Vichy government, the collaboration with the Nazis during World War II. So he's a very interesting, complex kind of personality. He's called the Lion of Verdun. All right, he really makes his mark at Verdun. And Petain comes from a military family. Listen to this. His great uncle, a Catholic priest, Lefebvre, served in Napoleon's Grand Army. And so he told young Philippe tales of adventure and war from the peninsulas of Italy to the Alps and Switzerland. So from the time Petain was a little boy, little baby boy Petain, 7-year-old kid, his uncle was telling him what? Not like war is hell. He's like, war is freaking awesome, bro. War is sick. It's the greatest experience. It makes a man a man. And it's so fun. You go out and you're marching with your comrades, all the pretty girls are waving at you and great food, you get to like fight. It's not, it seems like it's bad, it's not that bad, it's kind of like a sport. Like he grows up in it. And we can say maybe thank God. Because he, in World War I, he saves the Allied cause, right? Maybe that works for him actually. It's one of the killed. It's not here. He's taught all these things as a kid, and then he grows up and sees war is evil and he breaks under pressure. No, he's one of the guys that doesn't break under pressure. And maybe it's because all his life he's been trained to be a soldier. He has a very famous saying at Verdun, a couple, on les aura, we'll get them, ils ne passeront pas, they shall not pass. Kind of like that thing in, everyone was a Lord of the Rings fan. I feel like Tolkien wrote Lord of the Rings kind of with World War I in mind, and this Mordor kind of huge thing. Gandalf, the annoying wizard guy, right? The white beard, who's so pretentious and obnoxious. They shall not pass, right? That's like, that's called a Petain. Ils ne passeront pas, right? On les aura, we'll get them, they're not gonna get through. So Petain has this kind of like legendary status. He also, Sophia, because I can see by your body language, when will you tell me this part? Now, Sophia, now I'll tell you. He also is indeed, yes, as you're thinking, I read your mind. You're like, is he a soldier? He is. Indeed, you're absolutely right. People look at him like he cares for us. He's one of us, he's one of the guys, right? He likes cracking inappropriate jokes and he dips tobacco with the guys. And he chides and kisses people and stuff, and drinks beer with the men. So when he gets put in, okay, before I talk about the mutiny of the soldiers, Petain will restore morale. That's his ultimate thing. Think of him like Lion of Verdun guy, good soldier, but he'll restore morale by, very simple, ready? By talking to the men. Imagine that. I imagine Trish Schmidt and Dave, I would never speak for their personal life. They seem like they have an awesome marriage, really. I'll say as a person who's been married for 11 years, like who knows a little bit about marriage, I feel like they could probably, run classes for the Senate. I mean that sincerely. You guys make a beautiful marriage. I would assume, right, without divulging anything, communication is probably really important. Everyone always says that, right? It's important to talk to your wife, talk to your husband. It's important to talk about things, right? That's true for all parts of life. A lot of soldiers were like maybe the aloof husband who's like, I don't need to talk to my wife, I'm just gonna go to the bar again. And that creates problems. A lot of soldiers act that way. Like, I don't need to talk to they're just men, they don't need to know I'm distant. Petain takes the great kind of marital advice of talk to your partner. We're all in this together. I'm in this with my soldiers. I should kind of ask, how are they feeling? Dom, how are you doing? You've been in the front line for 3 weeks. Tell me about it. Simple things like that to show that he cares. That matters a lot. He also promises no more suicidal attacks. That seems pretty great. He provides rest for exhausted units. Says when you go on furlough, you can go home. You don't have to go back to some garbage third trench. You can actually go home, which maybe makes it worse, right? Because you're home and you're like, oh shit. Like I'm here with my family, I have to go back to the front line. Maybe that's even more brutal, but still. And he really is moderate in his discipline. He is not the guy like you. Someone has a rumor that you deserted your post, we're going to kill you for treason. Like you just look, don't let it happen again.
Don't desert again.
Don't desert again. Really, but seriously, he maybe even goes full kind of modern. Like was it a mental health thing? Are you stressed? Like he maybe would have no idea of like PTSD, but like I'm a soldier. I get how terrifying these trenches are. Maybe let's put you here. Like he very much, that really helps. Here's a quote from Petain. It says it all. And remember, his defense MO is to be literally purposeful, second use of the word, to be defensive. He's like, let's be more German, less suicidal tactics, hang back. That's what he says here, says it all, quote, I am waiting for the tanks and the Americans. That's what he says. America's declared war April 6th. I'm not an idiot, pretend. I know they're not going to show up right away. But how about we hold on, stop the effing suicidal attacks that are depleting our forces, right? And how about we wait for our allies to come with all these fresh troops, then we can maybe push for it, right? Very, very intelligent general, I would say. Why do the French troops mutiny though? Number 5, why is there a mutiny? Well, revolution is broken out in France, in Russia. Do you think, Sophia, the soldiers in the front are getting wind of this? That there's maybe a place, not only the Russians going to pull out and not support the Allied cause, but maybe war is not an option at all. Maybe the people back home can have their voice heard. I thought the Russians were under the Tsar's yoke. They had no say. It looks like they have a say in their government. It looks like they brought down the government, kind of. Also, there is the idea of, I mean, basically, if there's what's the one cause for the French mutiny? It's definitely. That's the number one cause. Our generals don't like us. They don't talk to us. They're not doing what pretend does. They don't care about us, and they just send us in human wave attacks. But also, there's the revolution in Russia. Also, they're getting pamphlets from home, from pacifists at home. Also, they're struggling with post-traumatic stress, shell shock, all that kind of stuff. Okay. Also, the numbers. In the first 2 months of the war, the French, remember, the Battle of the Frontiers, had lost 300,000 men. By Christmas of 1914, almost 500,000 French soldiers had died. By December of 1916, Trish Smith, listen, for the first time, listen to what I'm saying. By December of 1916, this point where we entered in 1917, 3 million Frenchmen had been killed or wounded. That's the background. If you're a soldier, right, you're like, in addition to the stress and the pamphlets, like we've lost already 3 million people. April 29th, the battalion is ordered to the front and men refuse. A lot of them are drunk on cheap wine. They shout down with the war. A lot of people get sentenced to death. More mutinies break out within 4 days. By early May, mutinies are happening throughout the ranks. Most of them fit in the same pattern. They start at night with drunken infantry troops being ordered back to the front, refusing. Many who have read pacifist pamphlets and heard about the revolution feel like they're justified. Down with the war, down with our soldiers, down with our idiot commanders. Okay. Veteran soldiers, even some of them, shoot their officers and set fire to camps. All right. Pretty soon, though, discipline is restored. Okay. At first, in a very brutal way. The word decimate, we're learning about words today. Okay. Annihilation to reduce to nothing. The word decimate comes from the Roman guard tradition of killing every 10th soldier. Right? Diez in Spanish. Decimate, to kill the 10th one. Whenever there's a problem in the road, you guys failed in war, we're gonna randomly pick 1 of 10 guys to kill. Horrible. They started doing this with the French soldiers.
This sounds like Hitler type stuff.
Sorry?
Sounds like Hitler.
Yeah, this is Maximilian Kolbe at Auschwitz,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That beautiful story when he died for Franciszek. Yeah, right, exactly. According to official records, of those court-martialed for mutiny, 3,427 were found guilty. Over 100,000 had mutinied. This is not a small mutiny. This isn't 10 guys. Me and Sophia and Maria read literature. She's not here, but she would read like subversive literature from Wyoming and South Dakota and brought it to us. And just we did it, like 3 of us, 10 of us, 20 of us. It's 100,000 people. More than 500 received the death sentence, but 49, only 4 men were executed. God rest their souls. Those are the 49 that were made, widows because of that and all that. At the same time, they maybe were guilty of very bad treason and stuff. War is hell, right? War is awful. Pétain is a very important guy in putting down the mutiny. Why? Because of what I just earlier told you, right? The great marital advice: talk to your spouse, care, show sympathy. In a report after the war, though, listen to what he says, my friends. Pétain will publish a pamphlet, a dossier criticizing everyone but himself. That's how I would do as governor of Idaho. Whatever's wrong with Idaho, it's not me.
It's you.
It's obviously not me, it's him. It's that guy. It's the farmers who told me they wanted the cows grazing in Utah land.
What did I do?
That's why we're at war with Utah now. I'll have to call in some Mormon figures at that point. I'll have to go and deep secret meetings with Mormons.
I owe you nothing, just so you know.
Just so you know, yeah, that's clear, I got it. He criticized the government for permitting radical organizations to press to freely publish anti-war material that reaches the troops, point number one. This is Patan after the war saying why the mutinies happened. One, anti-war material, two, army's badly prepared food. It's interesting, well, of course, I mutiny too if I eat this garbage, this slop. Easy access to cheap wine to get crazy hammered, maybe wine that's like 40 ABV, not what wine should be, just garbage, maybe it's like motor oil, whatever. Poorly maintained rest camps. Not only are these guys hungry and drunk, they can't even get some rest, they're angry. And then finally, inconsistent policies on leaves. All right, and then number 6 is the most obvious. Just the general obsession with breakthroughs, the Vandal offensive. So if this doesn't work after 40 hours, I'm called off. Oh wait, I was lying. Like that, who would that not piss off? Kerensky offensive, number 6. Last thing we'll talk about, like last 2 points we're gonna talk about super fast. Kerensky offensive is the last Russian offensive in World War I. Takes place in July 1917, led by Alexei Brusilov. Whenever you hear Brusilov, that's summer of 1916, successful, best Allied offensive, but the self-defeating casualties. Yes, Gracjan, we know you can repeat this 1,000 times. Okay. Has initial success. Pretty quickly, Russian soldiers start mutinying themselves. Amazing symbiosis. When I told Eli and Drew as they were leaving, the whole lesson of this class is of this particular class, lessons not learned, human wave attacks, and then the people have had enough. They mutiny. They mutiny against the government. And they rightfully say perhaps, hey, we're in treason. Didn't the Tsar abdicate? Isn't all authority in Russia gone? Wasn't there 300 years of Romanov rule that now is a joke? It's just non-existent. Oh, we're gonna obey Alexander Kerensky. Who the f is that? Like that's kind of the general attitude. Like, oh, okay, Kerensky, we'll pledge allegiance to you. Yeah, LOL, right? On September 1st of 1917, remember it starts in July. The Germans capture Riga. They're moving into Latvia, Lithuania. They complete the new Gorlice Targo. All right. The only limit to the German advance was the lack of logistical means to occupy more territory. Wow, that's a damning statement. Let me read it to you again. The only limit to the German advance was the logistical means to occupy more territory. The Russians attack, successful for a week, everything breaks down. It's the last offensive, they're going to mutiny. The Germans push back and they just win. And the only reason they didn't go all the way to like North Korea, there is no North Korea this time, to the Korean Peninsula, but all the way across, they just can't logistically. But the Russians are putting up no defenses. The Kerensky offensive, you can say, is the final military defeat of the Russian army. The Russian army is done with this. This offensive proves that the army morale no longer exists. In fact, when the Germans occupy Riga, the Russian soldiers defending the town refuse to fight and just flee from the troops. They just put down their weapons and leave. All right. What does this look ahead to? This is later on, looking ahead to Brest-Litovsk. On December 15, 1917, the Bolshevik government will just give basically Germany all of Russia, all of the western part of Russia, from the Baltic states to Ukraine. Brest-Litovsk equals German win in the east. Guys, for the first time in this class, we can say the Germans that have been winning everywhere have their breakthrough. They win in the east at this time. Lenin rejects Trotsky's stopgap policy of neither peace nor war, because this time, from last class, talk about Bolshevik Revolution. The Bolsheviks are in power now. Lenin's offering his decrees. He tells Trotsky, if we don't let the Germans win the war, we're going to lose the people. Let's just focus on Russia proper. Kerensky offensive into Brest-Litovsk equals Germany wins in the east. Germany wins World War I in the east, period. Dave, you're going to say something.
Well, I'm just concerned or confused. How can we, on the one hand, say we're going to take care of the Russian people, and on the other hand, say, well, by letting Germany have them, basically?
Because a lot of it, Lenin, I think, in a very pragmatic way, is like he doesn't want to bite off more than he can chew. A lot of it is not the Russian people; it's the former Russian Empire. It's Ukraine, Lithuania, Latvia. It's kind of people often ethnically that aren't Russians. There's a lot there, but it's kind of the old imperial czar thing. Hey, I'm supposed to be against imperial overreach. I just want to focus on Russia proper. You can have those borderlands.
Just like Britain.
Yeah, Germany distinguishes Poland, the Baltic states, Ukraine. That's not Lenin. That's not exactly Russia. That was what the Tsar used to occupy. And let's focus on one thing at a time. What about the Americans, guys? There were only 85,000 US troops in France when the Germans launched their great offensive in March 1918. America declares war, we know, April 6, 1917. A year later, 11 months later, March of 1918, only 85,000 US troops. I'm waiting for the tanks and the Americans, Patan says. But by September, 1.2 million Americans. Okay, that's a big jump. That's like 13 times, 15 time jump from 85,000 to 1.2 million in 1918. So March of 1918, less than 100,000 US troops in Europe. Very small number. A year after the Americans have declared war. But what about the Americans? But a half a year later, September of 1918, getting very close to Armistice Day, 2 months away, there's 1.2 million Americans. So the Americans are coming. Our last lecture in this class on chronology, today was all chronology, is going to deal with the Americans. I'm going to unplug the computer, move it forward so you guys can watch the slides that after you really quick. And we'll be done. Epic class. Loved it. We got to talk about potential Idaho gubernatorial runs and politics and jokes, all this kind of stuff. And we finished more than on time. And now I'm doing like a vlog now. Look, so hey, yeah, this is a really cool club. This is called Club Moscow. To be entered here, no ID is necessary, but you must look at least 40 years old. And the music is bumping from 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. in the morning. Come by anytime. Ask my boy Drew. He set it all up. It's like vlog style. Okay.
Will you be changing the state language, or are you still gonna go with Idaho dialect?
I'm gonna try to increase the Idaho literacy rate from like 3%, whatever it is. I don't know what's on that.
I mean, it depends. Are we talking like panhandle dialect or like
Yeah.
southern Idaho dialect? Because they're not the same.
Both at the same time. Amalgamated too.
Oh,
Like the amalgamated sugar plant. Check this out. I'm gonna say like this. This is gonna be awesome. So I'm like, there's the headless horseman. Now there's the, what is this thing called, by the way?
The music stand.
Okay, the music stand, the music stand professor.
Yeah.
I'm gonna block my.
It's like I have a degree.
I just
in
want-
I was gonna say, it's paying
I
off.
just want all of you to know that I'm blocking my head at this question style for the rest of it.
Yeah.
All right, there's your Hindenburg line dropping back in defense. And here's pictures of what we're doing. We're cutting down trees, destroying stuff. Remember, this is what the Allied troops will be up against in the Vandal offensive.
Go back one. Another one. What's going, I mean, we see.
This is already the looking ahead of the breaking of the Hindenburg line in 1918. Australian War Memorial. The Pershing, when he comes in, massive success, but at the same time, it seems every success in World War I is bought at a high price, right?
And the structure, whatever that is, what is that?
That I'm not sure. A little tent looking structure.
Yeah.
I don't know. No idea. Okay, VV Ridge. This is actually a model. I think a model the Allies did of the German lines. You see the people in the background trying to map out kind of like a war game, war plan, what they might do for an attack. Remember Vimy Ridge, all these photos of where Canadian national identity is born, right? In a few minutes, I witnessed the birth of a nation.
That looks like a tank, I mean, a pretty
Yeah,
developed tank for.
right.
beginning.
Remember Churchill, I think Churchill was angry that the Allies released the tanks too early. They had just a few prototypes. He wished they would save them. But the tanks were such garbage in terms of they moved 2 miles an hour, literally. It seems impossible. It's like then you go backwards, it's that slow. Like a walking man was faster. So,
But they provide cover.
but I'd like to be behind that and got in a firefight, right?
Yeah.
This is a picture of Pétain, obviously. Well, I mean, I guess obviously enough. Here's French mutiny. It's kind of one photo that kind of says it all. There is this kind of like open disobedience and just kind of drunken stupor about it as well. Truly, it's just kind of like, look, we're just done, right? And God bless these people. We've reached a psychological breaking point, right? Kraszewski offensive, this is a beautiful picture, very clean, lack of pixelation, awesome. You see the Kraszewski offensive on the bottom. Look at some of the important cities, I would argue, in that area, Budapest, right? Hungary, Belgrade, down to Serbia, Krakow in Poland. It's in the kind of southeastern part. It's kind of close enough, you can say the Austro-Hungarian leader of operations in a certain sense. This, if you read the French on the right, essayage des casques d'acier, trying on steel helmets, like the fitting for steel helmets. Okay. More pictures of guys in this Kraszewski offensive. Here in the trenches, kind of, that's the horrible picture. It looked much better on my computer. That one, also, man, the quality kind of drops. All of this is Kraszewski offensive. This is interesting right here. So last slide I have for you today, truly, because next slide is class number 24, November 11th. This slide is a Russian soldier going in to hit his own men for deserting. And that guy about to be hit looks like, go ahead, hit me in the face. Looks like he's walking right into it, he doesn't care. He's so burnt out, I would argue. He's like, F this, I don't care if I get a butt rifle in the head. I'm just not fighting this war anymore. He's trying to push him back in the right direction, back to fighting. And he's just like, no, I'm done. Speaking of being done, I'm done. I'm gonna crawl. Look, I'm moving the chair with no hands, just foot power as I work to turn this off. Hope you all have a wonderful day. Tomorrow's class will be at 12:30 until 2. So I think Pope Francis, after he does his Angelus, because we're on the same time as Rome, obviously, can attend the class. All right, have a great day. See you guys.